In the 1820s, the advancement of methods of transportation, including steamboats on the Ohio River, the use of the Erie Canal, and the National Highway out of Pennsylvania, led to expansion into the territory known as the Old Northwest.
The Old Northwest Territory was composed of the states of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and some of Minnesota. Control of the territory was granted to America by the Treaty of Paris in 1783.
The British didn't entirely vacate the area, though, after the treaty was signed. They allied with Native American tribes to essentially prevent Americans from settling in the Northwest Territory.
However, after the War of 1812 ended, the Old Northwest was more open for settling than ever before. The British had withdrawn their support, which weakened the natives' control over the land.
At first, the majority of settlers were from the southern states of Kentucky and Tennessee, as well as parts of Virginia and the Carolinas. They were farmers, for the most part, who had been forced away from the better plots of land by the expanding plantations, which drove the economy at the time.
These southern settlers, called butternuts, were glad to leave behind the poor farming conditions and limited space for the promise of more, better, and less expensive land. The Northwest Territory offered these farmers the opportunity to escape the lower-class social position they had occupied.
Next came the settlers from the Northeast, dubbed Yankees by other settlers. Although the Yankees weren't interested in agriculture, they were just as eager to gain new land as the Butternuts were. However, while the Butternuts wanted to break away from the restraining social order which had been in place in the South, the Yankees wished to recreate the society that they had migrated from, though with more available land.
Because the Yankees had such different ideals from the Butternuts, conflict between the groups was inevitable. The Southerners viewed the Yankees as inhospitable, greedy, and overly ambitious, and the term Yankee became an insult in the Butternut community. Northerners, on the other hand, thought that the Butternuts were uncivilized and uncultured.
The creation of a public education system, as well as the addition of roads, canals, and railroads, were primary goals for the Yankees. However, Butternuts were opposed to any and all reforms proposed by the Yankees, especially public schooling, which was viewed by the Butternuts as an attempt to northernize their children.
In addition to their differences in ideals and opinions of each other, there was a conflict of religions between the Yankees and Butternuts. Northerners were usually either Presbyterians or Congregationalists, who wanted their ministers and preachers to be formally educated in a seminary school. On the contrary, Southern settlers were more often Methodist or Revival Baptist. They preferred that their preachers be humble and less distant from their people.
The population of the Northwest Territory rose, as settlers from both the North and the South continued to migrate into the area, and the Old Northwest took on its own characteristics. By the 1850s, many of the major conflicts between the Butternuts and the Yankees had died out, mainly because the majority of the population was made of those who had immigrated from the North. Yankee reforms were carried out without much Butternut complaint.
Although the tension between the Butternuts and the Yankees had faded, new conflicts soon emerged, between farmers and city dwellers, or between the rich and the poor. After immigrants began arriving from other countries, like Germany and Ireland, tensions emerged between native Protestants and the newly arrived Catholics.
However, the original clash between Butternut and Yankee values remained to some degree. These tensions contributed to the divisions that defined the Civil War era. Though the Old Northwest became more firmly rooted in the Northeast, both in economy and in values, the remnants of the original values of both Butternuts and Yankees persisted for many years.